What if I told you that the most important thing a person could do 4 million years ago was simply show up at the right time? Not be the strongest, not be the fastest, just be on time. That sounds strange, doesn't it? Today we worry about being late for school or missing the bus. Back then, being late could mean something much worse. It could mean nobody in your family would ever be born again. Let's go back. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a place where there are no houses, no stores, no clocks. There are no cars, no roads, and no phones. The world is big and wild. There are trees, tall grasses, rivers, rocks, and lots of animals. This place is Africa a very, very long time ago. People then, our ancestors, lived outside all the time. They woke, they moved, they ate, and they slept under the sky. There were no gardens or farms. They did not keep lots of food in boxes. Everything they needed came from the land around them. That is why seasons were so powerful. Seasons are the parts of the year, times when the weather changes. Today you have winter, spring, summer, and autumn. Back then, the two big seasons were the rainy season and the dry season. When it was rainy season, the land came alive. Seeds sprouted. Trees grew leaves and fruit. Bugs were everywhere. Lots of animals came to water holes. When those animals ate, they left signs. The ground had footprints. The trees had broken branches. There was food everywhere if you knew where to look. But rainy season was not only good things. When the grass grew tall, animals could hide in it. Big meat-eating animals, predators like lions or other big cats, could sneak up without being seen. Rivers that were usually safe could flood and sweep things away. Lightning from storms could start fires that ran through the dry parts later. So rainy season meant both plenty and danger at the same time. Then came the dry season. No rain for months. The rivers shrank. The fruit trees stopped giving fruit. The bugs were fewer. Food that used to be easy to find was gone. Animals had to walk far to find water and plants. If people stayed where they were, they might run out of food. If they moved, they might walk into a place that had even less food. People back then had to make choices that were hard and risky. Those choices were about timing. Timing means doing something at the right moment. Imagine you are playing a game where, if you don't run when the horn blows, you lose. That is what seasons were like. If a group of people chose to move too late, when the water was already gone and the animals had left, they would get very hungry. Babies could starve. Old people could get sick. If a whole family or group died, their special ways of doing things and their stories and their knowledge would disappear. That is what it means that a bloodline ends. But how did our ancestors learn these timings? How did they know which way to walk, when to leave a place, and where to go? At first, they did not know. No one taught them in a classroom. There were no books. But some people watched closely. They watched the sky. They watched where birds flew. They listened to the sound of insects. They remembered which hill had water the longest. They also watched the animals. Animals like antelope and zebras move when the plants start to dry. The early people learned to follow those animals sometimes, because where the animals went, there was still food and water. This kind of learning, watching and remembering, became very important. It was like storing information inside the minds of the people. Today we might write things down in a notebook. Back then, the notebook was memory. A child would learn by walking the paths with their parents. They learned which berries were safe, which roots tasted bad, and which caves were dry when the rain stopped. That knowledge was passed from person to person, from elder to child. That passing of knowledge is what we call inheritance of memory. Not a toy or a house, but knowledge about the world. Let's think about a rainy season. The sky is full of clouds. The ground is soft. You can see little plants pushing up from the earth. You hear birds calling. Animals come close to drink. The people are happy because food is easier to find. But because the grass is tall, people must be careful. Predators hide. You can't run into the grass and shout without watching for danger. Sometimes, when the rainy season is over, animals move farther away to find their next food. People have to choose. Should we follow the animals now, or stay until the last of the fruit is gone and the weather turns hot? Move too soon, and you might miss good food near your home. Move too late, and there will be nothing left to eat, and the trip itself might be dangerous. That decision mattered. Now imagine the dry season. The sun is hot. The ground is cracked. A small pool of water is crowded with animals who all need a drink. If there is not enough water for everyone, animals will fight. Some of the big predators like lions will watch the weak animals and pick them off. People had to go further and further each day to find water. They had to carry their small children and their tools. They had to leave behind places that had been their home for a long time. When early people moved, they did not have maps. They followed something else: signs in nature and the memory of previous trips. Maybe an elder remembered a dry riverbed that had a hidden pool, or a rocky area where roots still held water. Maybe there was a path that had big stones people could use to cross a muddy area. Those who remembered and chose well helped their group survive. Over many, many years, groups who were good at timing and remembering had more children who survived. Those children grew and taught their own children the same knowledge. Groups who were not as careful or did not learn from elders sometimes disappeared. That is how the seasons helped shape which groups lived and which did not. Predators did not sleep through this. Lions, hyenas, crocodiles, and big birds learned the same patterns. If people moved at the same time every year, predators could learn too. So people had to be clever. Sometimes they changed paths. Sometimes they moved in bigger groups so that a predator could not easily take a small child. The seasons were a kind of game that everyone played, animals and people all trying to win. One big change happened when people learned to plan ahead. Planning ahead means thinking about tomorrow, next week, or next season. At first, people might have just moved when it felt right. Later, some people began to think before hunger arrived. They noticed small signs that the rainy season was ending. A certain kind of insect stopped buzzing, fruit started to shrink on the trees, or birds flew in a different way. So they left earlier, before the rivers dried. Leaving earlier was safer, even if it meant they missed a little food at home. The people who thought ahead usually did better. Thinking ahead also led to sharing and working together. When you walk a long way, it helps if people carry each other's belongings. If an elder cannot walk so fast, others help. People learned that looking after the weaker ones, babies and the old, meant the whole group stayed strong. If a group lost all its children or all its elders, it wouldn't have anyone left to remember the good places. So caring for each other became a way to survive the seasons. Let's talk about children. For a child in those times, everything was risky. Babies needed warm milk and care. Little children needed food, but could not carry much. If a family stayed too long in a place with no food, the babies might get sick. If the group moved too far and the child couldn't walk, that was a problem too. So parents and the group around them would work together to keep children safe. They would make sure someone always watched the little ones and taught them what to look for. It may not be hearts and flowers like in storybooks. It was practical. Children were the future. If children died, that family line might end. So groups made big efforts to keep them strong. Over time, because of the seasons, the minds of people changed. Their brains became better at remembering where water stayed longest, which plants flowered sooner, and how animals behaved. These changes happened bit by bit over many generations. The need to remember and tell others pushed people to make simple signs and sounds that turned into language. Language helped them teach bigger things. Instead of showing a child how to find water one time, an elder could point and say a short sound that meant water or danger. That saved time and saved lives. Do you know what else helped? Tools. A tool can be something as simple as a rock used to dig roots or a stick used to get fruit from a tree. When seasons made life hard, tools made chores easier. A stick could pull a heavy branch into a fire to scare a predator away. A sharp rock could cut meat into pieces to share. Tools are small, but they make a big difference, especially when every day is a small fight to find food. Fire also changed everything. Remember the rainy season with lightning and the dry season with fire risks? People learned that fire could keep predators away at night and warm the babies. When someone found a fire from lightning, they did not simply run away. They stayed and watched the flames. They learned how to keep the fire alive by putting dry wood on it. Having fire meant a group could stay in one place longer or rest more safely during travel. Fire let people cook food, which made some foods easier to eat and made them last longer. This gave people more choices when the seasons were harsh. Now picture a small group at the edge of a dry riverbed. The water hole is almost gone. They listen. They smell the dry air. The elder says, "Tomorrow we will move." Some people might object. "But we still have some fruit," they might say. The elder might say, "If we stay, the lions may take our children." So they decide. They pack small things and begin to walk at dawn when it is cooler. They move in a line. They watch the trails. They watch for birds that can see far away and fly toward rain. They follow tracks of animals that stopped at a different river last year. This small decision, walking at dawn and following a certain trail, might save the group. It is not exciting like a hero fighting a monster. It is patient and careful. That patience is what made the difference between living and not living. We can also imagine a time when the rainy season came earlier than people expected. Maybe it rained more and the land became a maze of water. The same memory of old paths could become dangerous if the river flooded differently. So people had to keep learning. The world was not a perfect teacher. Sometimes it changed in new ways. So those who survived were the ones who could learn, remember, and then change what they did. This is why flexibility, being able to change plans, was so important. Some animals could not change. A bird that only eats one kind of seed might disappear if that seed stops growing. A big cat that hunts only one kind of prey might starve if that prey moves away. But people could try new foods, move to new places, or make new tools. That is why many kinds of people spread across big parts of the world over a long time. They did not have super strength. They had the ability to notice patterns and use them. Let's bring this closer to you. Think about your school year. You have seasons too. Summer vacation, fall classes, winter holidays. If you forget that school starts in September and only prepare in October, you might miss the first tests or a new teacher. If your family plants a garden in spring and forgets to water in summer, the plants will die. That is a small version of timing. We still use seasons today, and that habit comes from long ago. Also think about packing for a trip. If you know it is going to be cold, you take a coat. If you forget, you might be cold and sick. Our ancient ancestors learned to pack differently depending on the season. They learned to carry things that helped them make it through the dry season. Containers for water, bundles of dried food, or tools that helped them dig for roots. One more important idea, stories. The stories people told around the fire helped them remember. An elder might tell a story about a path that flooded and how they lost a small group to teach the children to be careful. Stories are like memory made into sound. They are stronger because the special words and the feelings make sure children remember. That is how wisdom moved from the oldest people to the youngest, through stories, songs, and simple lessons. So what does all of this mean? Seasons did not just change the weather. Seasons changed the way people thought, the way they moved, and the way they took care of each other. If people always waited until the last minute, they lost babies and elders, and sometimes their whole group. If they learned to be on time, to watch the sky and the animals, to plan a little ahead, their children lived and taught the next generation. Over a long time, those small choices made our minds better at remembering, planning, and caring. Those minds became the humans we are today. Remember, miss one season's timing, and your bloodline ends. That is a big idea, but it is also simple. Being on time, watching nature, and learning from the past kept people alive. It let them pass their stories and skills to the next generation. That is how a family line, a bloodline, keeps going. Now, when you see a bird flying one way or a river with low water, you can imagine that long ago, a child watched the same thing and learned to walk a little earlier. When you put on a raincoat because the sky looks gray, you are doing a tiny version of the planning they did. The seasons taught them, and the lessons they learned are inside you too. The way you plan for tomorrow, to study, to bring a snack, or to wear a jacket, is part of their long story. Finally, let's end with what the seasons gave us. The power to think ahead, the need to tell stories, and the reason we look after one another. Seasons were harsh teachers, but they helped shape human minds that could remember, plan, and change. They made us learners and helpers. They made us people who watch the sky and listen to birds, who tell stories by firelight, and who hold our children a little closer when the weather turns. For a million years ago, the seasons ruled the land. Today, their echoes still rule us in small ways. Miss a season's timing, and you might miss something important. But get it right, and you help make sure the story keeps going.